Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Francess and Friends. How was your Thursday night? Was it good? Did you watch the game, or did you go do some activity that your girlfriend made you do and you had to repeatedly check the score and the updates and your fantasy score on your cell phone or whatever the hell you were doing? Now, if you watched my video yesterday, a lot of you guys had a good day because, as I told you over the years, I know Shanahan. I need to be brought in like Wade Phillips when they used to always stop the Patriots. I need to come in to stop Shanahan because I know how he runs that offense. We hit the over on Kittle receiving. We hit the over on Debo. We hit the over on longest reception for McCaffrey. But I ain't going to pat myself on the back too much because apparently when I was looking online last night, everybody won every single bet they placed. And I know that's something that all of you guys hate. And I stopped doing it as much in the NHL season because we all fall victim to when the things go right, we want to post it. And when the things go wrong, we're just silent. So I try not to do that so much. But between last week, last Sunday, this Thursday, we got some great momentum going, and especially some of the things that we came up with on this show, a couple of collaborations with the other guys, but I'll get back to that in a minute because you know how some companies, like they have those calendars where you'll tear one page off at a time. It has been 0 days since our last mistake. Well, it has been 2 episodes of this show without getting canceled. Episode 2 garnered a little more attention, more views than episode 1, and that trend, let me tell you, it needs to continue. Episode 3 has to have more than episode 2, or else I'm going to be like that Saved by the Bell reboot. What Saved by the Bell reboot? Yes, Saved by the Bell just had a reboot, and guess what? It's already canceled, and that's exactly what I'm trying to avoid. And by the way, isn't that kind of weird about shows that fail now? This is something that old failed shows didn't have to deal with. Like a network is trying to pump up a new show that it has like that Saved by the Bell, and then they'll upload a bunch of their clips to the YouTube. Now the show gets canceled after one season, 7 years go by, but those clips are still up on YouTube. And then somebody sees it. Wait, they made a Charles in Charge reboot? No, they didn't, but I'll tell you right now that they absolutely should because that has been my idea to cure primetime comedy for years now. For years, I've been pitching this. Now, I want you to hear me out for a second. Relax. I got bets coming. I got things coming your way about gambling, but this has been in my mind for years, and I got to get it out to someone. The guys at Peacock aren't listening to me, so maybe you will. Peacock, you want the next hit series? You brought back Saved by the Bell. That didn't work. You didn't do it the right way. You got to bring back Charles in Charge, a full reboot. The one caveat, it's with me as Charles, obviously. I mean, I bear the resemblance. I am a new school Charles in Charge type of person. This time, I live downstairs. I work remote, and I watch the kids. And hilarity ensues when the generational differences are brought to the forefront on a weekly basis. Whether you want to call that Gen Z, millennial, this, that, and the other, that's one of the main things that's going down. Whether you're on TikTok, Instagram, it's always these generational, back in my day, you used to be able to, well, it's a back in my day meets this day. And hilarity ensues. And look, you might not want Charles in charge of you, but if you want this show to continue, you got to give me the big 3. You got to give me like, Garnett, comment, Paul Pierce, subscribe, Ray Allen. You got to do all 3 of those and then tell your friends because your friends are going to tell their friends and then their friends are going to tell their friends and so on and so forth, like that scene in Wayne's World 2. Are all these 90s references just flying right over your head? Fine, I'll move on to something. Go ahead.
No, I was just giving a little Wayne's World. Of course, I'm aged. Party on, Charles. Party on, Garth.
Let's go to the "we win a stack of money" ending. Okay, fine. I'll move on to something that you guys understand a little bit better. You might not know the Wayne's World references, but of all the clips that you should be watching on YouTube, shouldn't be the Saved by the Bell reboot. It should be some of those Wayne's World clips because there are some hysterical ones. I'm a Mike Myers guy. I don't like his excommunication. I was a big fan of his sense of Austin Powers, Wayne's World, a whole bunch of them. But you guys, you want to hear about money? Dinero, soldi, rubles. Do you know another word for money, Mike? What's the Japanese yen? Is that still
Yen?
around? Is the yen
Yes.
still around? Turkish lira? There used to be something on Howard Stern called Who Wants to Be a Turkish Millionaire? And Turkey is one of those countries like Iceland. I went to Iceland where $100 is like 76 million Icelandic krona. So when we were going out, we went there for a bachelor party and we were going out and we were like, all right, we want to, get a reservation at this place. Everybody, you got to throw in like $100. And when you were asking people, it's like, hey, give me 25 million. You got 25 million. And it's one of those absurd, like, type of currencies. And Howard Stern used to make people do idiotic tasks to be a Turkish millionaire, which meant you got like $15. Anyway, last week we had Eric and Laffy on here, and it demonstrated exactly why collaborating can be so beneficial when it comes to sports betting. And I'm not talking about two Instagram models going to the beach together, taking pictures, and calling that collaborate. Oh, it's a collab. It's a collab. Look at us. No, I'm talking about combining sniffs with stats, actual collaborations. Eric, he talked me off the Chargers. I'm like, is this, it seems like a good bounce back spot, but he's like, he did not give me his stamp of approval, but he did on Mike Williams, which hit. Laffy talked me off of taking New England as a home dog because I thought that potentially could be a good spot, but he gave me his stamp of approval on Jalen Waddle. We weeded out the bad ones, we took the good ones, and had a bunch of winning bets with our guests working in unison. Both of those bets were not just good, they were Tony the Tiger Zucaritas great. I'll never forget when I was 18 years old and I went to Mexico for the first time, and I went to the supermarket and I just wanted anything I knew. And all I saw, the only thing I recognized was Tony the Tiger throwing that big finger up at me. And it wasn't Frosted Flakes. It was called Zucaritas. And I'll always remember that till the day I die. Now, this week, I'm bringing on one of the pastiest men in fantasy football, Nick Lepri. And how do you know he's so great at what he does in fantasy? I mean, just look at him. The guy hasn't seen the sun in years, and that's always a telltale sign somebody's doing their work in the bunkers, making sure they got all the good stuff for you. And then I'm bringing back Laffy. Maybe he can weed out another bad bet and lead us towards a good bet. Today's lineup is going to be double stacked like all your Josh Allen lineups this weekend. But first, before we get to our guests, I would like to offer up some NFL betting advice that I like to call maximizing your sniff. Last week on Sunday's video, I reintroduced one of my betting theories that I like to take advantage of this every single year, and that is with sports betting, fantasy, DFS, week 1 duds equal week 2 studs. And I'm not talking about every player in the league. I'm not talking about Joe Blow players like Alec Pierce. I'm talking about players who are key cogs in their team's offenses that were simply off a little bit in week 1 for whatever reason. And as a result of that, on the Sunday video, we hit the over on T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, and Deebo Samuel. Not to mention there were like a plethora of other ones out there, Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett. There were a bunch. So now how do I get the most out of those sniffs? By doing what I like to call tiered sniffing. Yeah, you heard it right. Tiered sniffing, where I try to maximize the payout on whatever that particular prediction is. I've mentioned some of this in my NHL videos last year. I want you to just picture that yodeler climbing the mountain on the Price is Right game. Remember that when you go, yodel, yodel? Well, that's what your winnings should be doing when you have a correct call. Now let's take a look at last week, for example. By the way, I did this last night. I could even talk about that. Let's say I have $100. All right, nice, simple, or 100 donuts. And I really like the over on receiving yards for Gabe Davis, who we did. It was one of my favorite plays. He had a slow week 1. He was semi-called out by his coach and had a great home matchup against the Raiders, who are 100% not the New York Jets. So I'll put $60 of that 100 on Gabe Davis to go over his 42.5 receiving yards. But then I'm also going to put 25 on Gabe Davis, alternate receiving, 60 plus, at a much better price, obviously. And then lastly, I will put $15 on Gabe Davis, alternate receiving, 80 plus yards. That way, if he doesn't have, if I was kind of wrong, but he just sneaks to 45, I'm still winning money on the day. But if I'm truly right on my call, my particular sniff, I want to maximize how much I'm getting out of that. And this is for things that are like your call, your particular you want to call them gut feelings. I like to call them sniffs. But to get the most out of those, I think you should do what I like to call tiered sniffing, and that's what it is right there. Last week, I got one of those Aaron Rodgers bets refunded because all you people complained, so I'll thank you for that. I took the free bet credit and used my tiered sniffs, and I put a Mike Williams over 75 plus yards and Gabe Davis 75 plus yards. Both of their totals, one was in the 40s, one was in the 50s, and then I ended up cashing out over $500 on that free play, which was like $25, something like that. But that's how you can get the most out of your calls if you are correct. You learn something new every single day on this Odd Shopper channel, which you guys should absolutely be subscribed to. So what are the tiered sniffs for this week? Well, I gave you one last night that you could have used. I told you about George Kittle, how he wasn't as involved as you would typically see those first couple of weeks. And with Ayuk out, you should be taking him 50, 60, 70. He hit those all. Same thing with Debo. His total was 53. Now, if you took Kittle, Debo, 60 plus on both of them, 70 plus on both of them, think about what your payouts would have been. And what are the other ones that I have for Sunday? Well, maybe you should you should check out my week 3 video tomorrow to find out. Oh, that's right. Am I a scumbag for teasing a future video? Yes, I am. You see, if you think this is a riot, what do you think the Charles in Charge reboot's going to be? I'll have to ask my first guest when I bring him on. What do you think? You think I got a shot with the Charles in Charge reboot, Mike?
Andy's in charge of our plays and our sniffs.
I mean, some people who DM me on Instagram and Twitter, I do feel like I am running their life. They have a little too much faith. You should always curb your enthusiasm, for lack of a better term, on anything that happens, because as quick as things can go up, they can go down, and all that nonsense. I'm going to ask our first guest, who a guy who doesn't run from those Tua trolls when he's available. Is he available yet?
Ironically, the guy named Notorious is MIA.
All right. No. I don't need to. I never, I live my life quarter mile at a time. Okay. But we could talk a little bit. We could talk a little bit about last night. Was that assumption correct? That it seemed like everyone was winning. Did nobody have good calls yesterday? Actually, I saw that the millionaire, like the Millie Maker on DraftKings, it was split so many ways that if you won the millionaire tournament, you won $10,000, which is a real weird. I don't know how to feel. You got 10 grand, but to see yourself win the millionaire tournament and come out with 10K, that's a real weird feeling.
I'll tell you what, if I was one of those 47,000 people, I would put on my profile Millie Maker winner, and nobody would ever tell me different.
That is, hey, it's not false advertising. It's true. And then if people want to inquire about the details of that, then they can do that themselves. But it was the only thing I think I missed on was the over on longest rush from Daniel Jones, because I think that I just thought that even if it was late and they were down a bunch, that he wouldn't be able to control himself. I'm pretty sure he didn't get it. But other than that, I was kind of swept across the board with the San Francisco 49ers. That game as a whole. I'm assuming you watched it, right? Or at least a piece of it.
I watch everything, and
when did you
unfortunately, I watch No, I watch the full games. I'm a maniac. I'm an addict. Even if I have shit to do, I'm watching
gambling or NFL.
Both. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Maybe on paper it looked good. I feel like we just are back to getting the shit games on Thursday. And I guess I'd rather have them on Thursday than, Sunday or Monday. But yeah, it wasn't great. Even the final score was a bit of a mystery. It was a lower game than on the scoreboard. It was kind of a grind.
Do we know the next Thursday game? Don't tell me. Do you remember when it used to be Titans, Jaguars every Thursday? They played 16 times a week, it seemed, on those original Thursday night footballs.
And
But
the
we already talked
Browns.
about the Zach Wilson. Yeah, the Browns always got it. We talked about the Zach Wilson debacle last week, how many they took from us. We have the Steelers and the Raiders this Sunday. I mean, this is a primetime potential nightmare we have going on. And the funny thing is, I was at a bar with a couple of my friends last night, and I was watching this game. And because I had a couple of bets in, it is hilarious what betting on sports can do to your, like, they were like, let's go, it's like 30 to, I'm like, no, I need to see how they're running out the clock. I posted the bet on Twitter. I needed Matt Breida to not run for 17. They were down like 25 points, but you know how it goes sometimes. They just run some dinky inside handoff when they concede the game, and because the other team's in prevent defense, they'll take the carry 20 yards. So I'm sitting there rooting against Matt Breida inside run, the things that sports betting does to us. And people are like, what are you, what? Like casual people at the bar, like, what are you so focused on? I'm like, just really into the game, man. I like to see the depth. It's it's wild what that can do.
I remember I was with a buddy, John, I'll throw him under the bus, and his wife, and we were just at a bar, and the Jaguars lost on the final play of the game, and he had the Jags. So he like screams "fuck" out into the mist, and she's like, "What the hell is your problem? You like the Jaguars?" And like the whole bar knew what was going on. Everyone looked at him, and he just said, "Nah, I just have a lot of their players on my fantasy team." And this is back when you would have maybe Mark Brunell, nobody else. So yeah,
Oh my God.
gambling makes us watch the Jags and the Browns on Thursday nights.
I mean, it can make flipping a coin the most interesting part of your entire summer. You know what? I brought something up to you guys last week. I brought up the fact that Travis Kelce missed his first game in God knows how long because a little Taylor Swift rumors, which are semi being confirmed. Then I reminded you guys 2 years, Christian McCaffrey, his production went down. I called it the influencer curse. And if you're going to say, but McCaffrey's doing unbelievable now, look at that. Yeah, well, because he's been with her for 2 years. It's all out of his system. He's married now, and there's an old saying about something that I'm not going to say, but if you're connected with me upstairs right now, you know what that saying is. But those were two right there. Then there was we talked about the Braxton Berrios thing. And how about, did you see that Kim Kardashian is talking to Odell Beckham, rolls his ankle out of the game. I bet you he doesn't play on Sunday. You ask for an influencer, or you invite an influencer to the table, you're asking for trouble. I'm not an NBA guy. Everybody who's watched my NHL videos knows that, as I explained to Laffy last week, there's a fork in the road. Some of us go NHL and some of us go NBA when we're younger, and you have to make that winter decision. But something during that bubble, I know there were influencer stories about, was it that Tyler Harrow guy, and look how he's doing. I mean, he couldn't even play in the finals. That's how ruined he is. You guys got to be very careful about these influencers, all right? They're coming for your followers, and then they're just going to leave you broke, praying that Matt Breida doesn't run for 15 or 20 yards unnecessarily at the end of the game. But, we do have Nick coming on, as long as he still knows how to use a computer, and I want to see what he thinks about his guys this weekend, because he is a huge Miami Dolphins fan, and this has major, in my opinion, rat potential. I tried to warn you guys of which ones are rats, which ones are not rats, and last week, Chargers, we sniffed out that rat. Week 1, I told you that was the pool shark week, where they let a couple favorites, slip through. Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, give a 21-year-old a favorite, and he'll be hooked for life. That's what week 1 was. Then we saw some of the rats come in, take over your city. And this Dolphins game has major rat potential, because every time it stacks up in one direction. What do you think the spread should be? 8.5 for Miami, and it's only 6.5. And then you have the 0-2 Denver Broncos, who just lost at home to the Raiders, and then they lost to Washington. You can't seem any lower. And then on the other side, who's riding higher than the Dolphins and this is their home opener. Well, there are a couple little asterisks there where you had, you have Jalen Waddle's status up in the air, and then all of a sudden, if you don't have the dual threats, I mean, Hill's going to be triple covered, and you saw last week when you pay extra attention to Hill, he can somewhat be nullified. So then you're asking Mostert to get involved, and I know Denver's defense has been rather lackluster the first couple of weeks, but they typically are pretty reliable. That one does have the makings of a potential rat, and that's one I just want to put out there. Does that pass your smell test?
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I know we got Nick coming on, but I'm of the camp where I feel like sooner or later we're going to see Tua rack his head against the ground again and have some issues, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because I like the guy, I like the player. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but the amount of concussions he had in a short period, it's only a matter of time, in my opinion. Hopefully, I'm wrong.
All right, and how about another double-digit? Well, not another double-digit favorite, but we saw a double-digit favorite cover last night. You have the Chiefs at home going up against Chicago. Mahomes still hasn't had that big game. Do you think this is going to be one of these, the blow them out, get right spot for Mahomes? Because that offense still wasn't really clicking. Is this a game where you think Mahomes throws for 404 touchdowns? I may need to use that for DFS purposes.
I mean, let's be honest. It's Pat Mahomes, so that game is coming. Kelsey has kind of, he missed the game, and even last week, he got in the end zone barely, and he dropped another one that was a short touchdown. So I expect him to kind of get right, week by week. So yeah, I mean, I could see it, but who knows? Especially with this goofy ass Bears team.
And I know, Laffy talked me off of taking the New England Patriots last week, which was a good thing. I really wonder what he's going to say about it, because I think I'm going to bring the Patriots back to his front door when he comes on, because to me, -2.5 on the road against Zach Wilson. If you saw how the Patriots played against the Jets and what the Jets D did to them in both those matchups last year, those are two tidal waves coming at each other. The awful play of Zach Wilson, but then the stymieing nature of that Jets defense at home. You saw what they did to Josh Allen off of a bad week, people starting to kind of just throw them away, like, oh, they're done. But we haven't even seen this version of Mac Jones on the road in year 3. We've only seen 2 home games where they looked pretty well on offense, but that's a pretty dismal offense over there. They have no true game breakers. So this is one that I also think could be a potential rat. My guess is that your average person is going hard on New England because they're giving you what I like to call the stake in the woods line at -2.5. They're saying, please, just bet the Patriots. You see it right there. Come on. It's a filet mignon. It's waiting in the woods. Don't you see it? And then as soon as you grab it, you get hit with those spears. And that's another one I will ask Laffy. But what I'm going to do right now is take a 1-minute break to remind you, if you have the opportunity, you haven't taken advantage of all the promotions, the early season promotions that these sportsbooks offer you, there's no better time than right now. You bet $10 on BetMGM, and you will get $200 in free bonus bet credits on whatever you want to bet them on. So you bet 10, if you can find $10 somewhere around the house, and then you get to look at that picture of me that I'm embarrassed to see right now, you will get $200 in free bet credits to sprinkle around the board, and then you can utilize the tiered sniffs. I used the free bet that they gave me from Rogers, turn that into $500. You'll get $200 worth of those to turn into $500 with a couple of tiered sniffs. And I'll have some for you tomorrow on the Odd Shopper channel, which you should absolutely be subscribed to. I got to remind you one more time, these numbers need to go up or Andy goes down. All right, and we're back, and our first guest is going to be, like I said, the palest man in fantasy football. And it's just surprising to me that he's a Dolphins fan, Nick. Hey, Nick, you want to come on? Oh, that's right. He stood me up like one of these influencers. You're going to be cursed by the end. now I got to say, you have to, if you're out there, Nick's going to be punished by the sports betting guy. Not only am I going to take the Broncos plus 6.5, I'm taking them to win outright. That's right. I'm taking the Broncos over the Dolphins. And Nick, I'm sending you the receipt along with some tanning oil that you should be using before you go there. How are you a Miami Dolphins fan? And I only go off because I've seen you kind of go off on people on YouTube. It's one of my favorite things. You go down into the bunkers and you fight with those orcs known as the YouTube commenters who are shitting on all of your videos. So, I mean, it's the classic. You got to be able to give it and you got to be able to take it. And you're going to have to take a home loss at the hands of the Denver Broncos, who are plus 6.5. But I'm not kidding, people. This is a good spot. As I was mentioning before, I was going to ask Nick about it and see if he got his panties up in a bunch, because he's one of these people. If you say something bad about Tua online, oh my God, he's spending 2 extra hours. He gets derailed by Tua haters. And I'm not necessarily a hater, but I will be betting against those Miami Dolphins this weekend. And what's going to happen. People get penal. What goes around comes around, and all that good stuff. But we got Laffy coming on for you, and I could also take a look at any other games along the way. I will say this. Remember last week I said I looked up at the slate up and down, didn't really see too many picks that really jumped out at me. The only kind of two that I saw this past week that really stood out were those two that I mentioned with the Dolphins, Patriots, and then potentially we saw massive movement on the Raiders-Steelers line. The Raiders, they beat the Broncos week 1, and then they just got trounced the following week. Now, I understand the Steelers. I mean, they ended up winning, but looked awful in the process. And I think that you're actually getting decent. But anytime in 1 week, the line is shifting 3 to 4 points, and it's not like a Joe Burrow situation that you're still going to be rolling out the Steelers defense against Garoppolo and the Raiders, I think you're getting good value with Pittsburgh. I mean, if they can just sneak that. I mean, another reason they're trying to stake in the woods you with the Raiders. The Raiders will win by 3. Do you remember what the Raiders were 2 weeks ago? Always flush down the toilet what you saw the previous week. Before this season, what are you saying about the Raiders? What a disaster. They should trade Adams, blah, 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 blah. And the Steelers, oh man, did you see how they ended the year? They won like 5 of 6. They were in the playoff race. They have that defense. Every game that TJ Watt started in last year, they won. And now, because we saw a little of this and a little of that, you're just going to flush that down the toilet. I think we're getting massive value with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And may God have mercy on your soul, because you're going to have to watch Najee Harris run. And I don't know if you saw him. He had one long run that probably should have been a touchdown. That's how slow he was. His knees. Remember when George Costanza and Kramer are in the airport? And Kramer's, yeah, get your knees up. I was yelling at the TV. Run, Forrest, run. He was not running. I mean, that guy. I don't know who's slower, him or Cam Akers, who just got traded to the Madison and go ahead, or traded to the Vikings. Bust out the memes about the mid-off. Everybody, that's one of the things that I don't like about fantasy, NFL, all that stuff, is the plethora of joke stealers and the same. I mean, most of these people aren't comedians out there, so their jokes are as mid as the ones they're making about Akers and Madison and all that stuff. And that's what I have to say. You see, Nick, I got to give you credit. I came in like, now I'm fired up. Look, I got sweat running down my face.
And I think you just invented a new type of wager, the revenge money line bet, because you were going to take the points, and then Nick no-showed, and then you just bumped that up to straight up fucking money line, going for the juggler because of Nick. So Nick actually contributed to the show today, because he helped you and I invent the revenge money line bet, when you just want your buddy's team to flat out lose.
It's really funny that you mentioned that, because week 1 on my Sunday video, I took the over on Mike Williams and it didn't hit. I took the over on Gabe Davis. It didn't hit. And I came right back the next week. Now, granted, I do normally I go by that theory that I said before. Normally, week one duds equal week two studs. But more specifically, I say, no. Mike Williams owes me money. Gabe Davis owes me money. And I'm coming to collect week two with the juice on it. And yeah, I already had one. I had a revenge bet with players. Now I'm going to have a revenge bet with people. I'm going to, that their fine is to have some heartbreak. This is one of the scam benefits on my end for not having any allegiance to a team. What's Nick going to do? What's he going to do? He's going to show up with yeah, that's right. Unless he wants to take things to the ice, he can't screw me. This is a one-way street where I can insult all your teams, including the Eagles and the Vikings and the Dolphins. And I got no fear of retaliation, And that's where we're at with that. So when I come back next time, first thing I got to do, it's fall in New York. It's incredibly comfortable outside, and yet I'm still sweating like most of these Sopranos and what's his name? It's Miami, hot and sticky like my balls. So I'm going to take 2 more minutes, put a fan on my face, and then when I come back, Laffy's going to be here. All right, now we're going to bring on Dave. You might know him as Laffy. I just feel like once you get to a certain age, you don't call people by nicknames like that. I think it's like wearing somebody who's younger than you's jersey to a game. Like we know Nick will probably do that for the rest of his life. He's going to wear whoever the hell the Dolphins quarterback is. He can be 60 years old. He's going to wear his son jersey to a game. We're going to bring on Dave. If you match with him on Hinge, he shows up to dinner on time, and he's going to either talk me in or out of bets. We had a great little collaboration last week, as I mentioned at the top of the show. He talked me off of taking the Patriots as home dogs, getting points, but he fully sent me on my way with his approval on my Jalen Waddle over. We kind of came to that one together. Hopefully we can do something similar today. Dave, what's going on, my man?
Yo, that's the most insane take I've ever heard, that you can't wear jerseys of players younger than you.
Yeah. I just won't do it. I just look at it as a form of worship, and I'm not wearing some younger guy's jersey to the game.
Here's the real violation: wearing an NFL jersey with your own last name on the back.
Yo, all right, you're a Philly guy. The 88 instead of Lindros, it's Jenkins. That's the absolute
so bad. It's so bad. I see it all the time. I'm like, what are you doing to yourself, man? You can't, no self-respecting person is out there like, you know what? I love this team, but I love myself more, and I'm going to throw my own name on the back of a jersey. I have no problem wearing it. Listen, I'm at an age now where if I wear a jersey, I used to be a kid watching these games thinking these are like grown ass dudes, which to some extent they are, but you know what I mean, right? Some of these kids, they're still kids. And now I look at it and I'm older than, everyone not names, name a few old quarterbacks. That
Rodgers, baby.
Yeah, Rodgers, right? Like Brady's done. Or some kickers or punters still got my number. But,
that's great. Okay, rolling up with rolling up with, yeah.
Well, he's not even here anymore. Yeah, it'd have to be like an old. But no, I go by the nickname because it's the Twitter. First of all, my last name's Loughran. The nickname doesn't even make sense, right? It was just people couldn't pronounce my nickname or my name growing up, so they called me Loughran, and then my boys all called me Laffy. It doesn't even make any sense. But no, I'll keep this till the day I die. But if my wife started calling me that, it'd be super weird.
I do want to rephrase that. Unless you know somebody, I just think if I were to meet someone and read their bio, I don't think I've earned the nickname. That's more of something on me. We don't know each other well enough yet where I can use if I call you by your nickname, that insinuates subconsciously, oh, we've been hanging out for years. You call it if somebody just poked their head in and I call you Lafayette. Oh, man, they must have grew up together or something. It's like a nickname type of thing. That's all I mean. It's more, it has
Gotcha.
nothing to do about you having it. It's about me. I got to earn the credit to
Give
refer
it a
to
couple.
you
Give it a
by.
couple weeks. You'll
Yeah,
feel more comfortable.
I do
There's
want to.
nothing worse though. I know we got to get into sports. Last thing I'll say here: wearing wear jersey with your own last name pales in comparison to giving yourself a nickname and then expecting people to refer to you by, like when Hassan Whiteside tried to nickname himself Agent Block. Some of these
That's
just get real bad.
that's beyond. That's beyond ridiculous. I mean, that also deserves massive ridicule. If you're in a group of friends, I could only imagine the friends you grew up with, and you try to give yourself nicknames are like respect. They're
Yeah,
earned. You can't just demand nicknames from people. You can't demand respect.
you're right.
It's got to be earned, and it's
Yep.
got to be because of something. I'll give you just one last flip side on that nickname. This is a guy. Imagine you have your childhood Philly friends. You all go to your own colleges. You all make your own friends there, and then sometimes things like during the summer, you meet your friends' friends from college. Right? That's fair. One of these kids' nicknames from one of my best friends I grew up with was like Kramer from Seinfeld. They called him Ass Man. Girls were calling him Ass Man. And I don't think it has some sort, like, you look at this guy and you would not think, oh, Ass Man. I don't know what it, but the thing is, it stayed and kept going. Now at my friend's
That's
bachelor
tough.
party, at my friend's bachelor party in Iceland, we're at the airport. We can't find the kid. They're yelling across families, "Hey, Ass Man, Ass Man!"
That's
Because
tough.
most people didn't even know his name. Because, like I said, he went to college with one of my friends, so he's just there, and they're yelling for Ass Man. So this can go either way. You got
Yeah.
a nickname.
I
That's
would not be
fine.
responding to that even if I heard them, for what it's worth. I just keep walking, man. That's
100
brutal. Over here.
100%. Yeah,
Can't
yeah,
do
right
that.
here, sir. So last week that really was good, man. We that
Yeah.
Waddle. I mean, they shut down Hill or did whatever was necessary to kind of limit what he was doing to them. And I can only imagine like Nick cringing as we're talking about anything negative about the Dolphins right now. But Waddle kind of, if he stayed on the field, probably would have eclipsed 100 yards. He hit his over relatively easy. I want to kind of go back to one of the two teams, and you talked me off the Patriots last week. I think the right thing to do this week is bet against them because I see them going on the road, an 0-2 team going on the road. We've seen kind of them looking pretty good. It's a little bit different when it's at Foxborough primetime. They're also playing the Eagles week 1. They're going to the Jets. So you're getting those 2.5 points at home off of a bad performance. We saw they played at home against Josh Allen in that division, and we saw how that Jets D played against the Patriots in both games last year. What do you have a feeling, or even just to stay away on that game?
Yeah, I mentioned in the video I do on this very Odd Shopper channel, picks for every game, that if I were to play this one, I think I'd pay a little bit extra for it and bet the Patriots money line. Now, when I recorded it, it was at minus 135, and I thought that was a reasonable spot to get there. There's still some 140s out there, 142, not bad. If you're laying the points, you just need them to win by a field goal. So by no means am I saying that's wrong. You kind of just illustrated what we're looking at over the first 2 weeks. But just to add to that, they faced the Philly team that is a good team, coming off the Super Bowl appearance. They could have won that game. They probably should have, but as far as pass catchers go, they're in trouble. And the defense played well. They really suffocated the run game. And then in the following week against Miami, Raheem Mostert broke out late, but they stayed competitive. There were some mishaps on that Patriots offense, that led to turnovers and stuff like that. But I didn't think they played poorly, and they kept that game respectable and competitive. Now you've got a Jets team. Here's the difference: the Patriots, not because they want to, they're throwing the football 70% of the time through the first 2 weeks. That's insane. They don't want to do that, right? Give Ramondre Stevenson the football, let Mac Jones work, but he doesn't have a ton to work with. And I don't think Bill O'Brien's done a bad job either. So I think they get this win. I'd rather pay a little extra for the money line, but I don't think that you have that same issue now going up against a Tua Tagovailoa-led offense or a Jalen Hurts, even though he struggled, led offense. You don't have anything on the Jets side. You're talking Zach Wilson here. So if they can clamp down on the run game, think it's a super low scoring game, they sneak out a win. I have a tough time believing they move to 0-3 on the season. That's a death sentence in the NFL. You're not making the playoffs. You're going nowhere.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy that was your take because I can assure you I don't want to be putting any bets on Zach Wilson.
It's
Now,
tough.
last week, I had something in that game. I don't even know where I would want to go in that game in terms of bets. So, looking at your big board, are there any directions that you would mind steering me? You put me on the Falcons money line last week. It was a little,
It was
scary, but
dicey, but win's a
as my
win.
uncle says, hey, listen, I don't want to hear anything. I pick up the paper in the morning. Oh yeah, look, I won. So I don't care about how they got there. You got there, and that's all. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what he
we
tells
got
me
there.
anytime.
And you know what? That's one of the great things of watching this show on a Friday or getting bets in earlier in the week, because that move, the whole assumption was, hey, we don't think Jones and Watson are going to play. They're two best playmakers, and I think it could be influenced in the line. That was Falcons were +1 and plus money on the money line. It doesn't always work in your favor. Sometimes it goes the opposite way. That closed at Falcons -125 and -2 or something like that. So you wouldn't have covered if you bet the Falcons spread when that game kicked off. What do you think, though, Andy, about the Tennessee Titans getting 3.5 points against the Deshaun Watson led, can't even say led, Deshaun Watson on the 230 million guaranteed for this guy, right? They traded away 3 first-round picks. He's already given the defense 12 points in 2 games. He's taken multiple face mask penalties. He's managed to shove a ref. He does not look good. He's holding the ball longer than any quarterback in the entire league, not named, I think, Zach Wilson at this point. It has been really, really ugly for Deshaun Watson. So at this point, if he can't produce against the pass funnel defense, and he's going to need to because they will smother the run and they no longer have Nick Chubb, I think this is a spot where Tennessee could not only cover but win.
A couple of things. Number one, that's extremely impressive multitasking. Continue. I mean, I can't do 2 things
like
at once
that.
like that. That's unbelievable. I'm
Thanks,
telling you,
man.
my worst attribute as a human being is doing 2 things at once.
Yeah.
And to see you continue that's straight up like put
Wow.
this guy on FS1 quality. That's just he
I've been
calmly
doing this
looked
a
like
little
he was
while too,
pushing
man.
an ashtray to the side and he was getting the Property Brothers off that left TV that he had over there to make sure that he had the graphic up there.
I think it was like first 48 or something. For some reason, whenever I turn this TV on, it defaults to Kitchen Nightmares or first 48, and the screen mirror just died on me. So I had to get it back up. Hopefully I was succinct enough while we were working.
It was very impressive. And somebody like me, I really do appreciate stuff like that. Well, there's a reason Deshaun Watson isn't playing particularly well at the moment. And there could be 2 potential reasons. Number one, he might be a little tense these days. And number 2, he's too busy getting those tweets out. He's got that burner up.
Gainesville's own, baby. Yeah. No, it's the
it's
most obvious thing in the world. You know what I was thinking? I don't mean to cut you off. You know what I was thinking, though?
No.
Do you know how fun this would be? I was thinking about this today. Do you know how fun this would be if, like, when quarterbacks are under this type of controversy and they're playing poorly, if you just went in...
Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. I really was going to say to you, why don't we just do the same thing for quarterbacks who aren't playing well?
Everyone
Ladies and
would buy
gentlemen, we are scumbags. When people say, what do you mean people from the Northeast are scumbags? That's where our mind goes.
That's the first thing I thought about.
Our mind doesn't go, oh my God, are we just, how dare we insinuate somebody would do such a thing? No, we go, oh, that's definitely him. So we just convict him, guilty until proven innocent. And then how can we use this to screw other people? This is what human beings are, ladies and gentlemen. They come out with the red receipt. So, you just want to know that your son saw that text. And what do people do? They intentionally don't read it to let you know they're not interested in going on a date with you. We're weaponizers, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what we're doing with this burner account.
It would work. It would
who's
work.
The next QB? Who's the next one on the list?
That's what I mean. Justin Fields is going to be ripe for the picking real soon.
But you got to do this to help your Eagles. You got to pick apart. But like if Brock Purdy, you better
or
any
Sam
sort
Howell,
of potential rivals you could play down the road in the playoffs. You get in that QB's head.
Do you know how easy it would be? I was thinking about it this morning as I was writing up an article. All you have to do is create an account, right? Make it, like vaguely similar, because they did the Gainesville's own thing makes me believe that you and I are late to the party, that this is some mastermind troll already doing this because he's from Gainesville, but they spelled Gainesville wrong. So it's so obvious. And then it's clearly spoken like someone on a burner account. So I think we're late to the party, but it would just be so easy. All you'd have to do is turn on, this is sick, turn on notifications for like all, say, Chicago beat reporters or for people that are talking about a subject, be the first person to comment on it in defense of that person with a newly created account, and you're immediately in the door. Everyone immediately believes that it's a burn. The more I say this, Andy, it leads me to believe that this is not Deshaun Watson's burner account.
I mean, not only did I say how rotten our mindsets were, he didn't even stop it at, that was my first thought. He even went down the full road of this is probably somebody doing that. So now it's not even Deshaun Watson anymore. Our minds are so rotten that it's not even Deshaun Watson.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, man. He's playing in the AFC North now. Who knows, man? It's close enough. It's close enough.
Yeah. I like the Titans this week though. If Watson
I completely forgot about that.
I hit you with that nice segue right there. If Watson can't figure anything out, seriously, how did they move the football? Because they're not going to move it on the ground with a backup. We saw the Saints try and move it on the ground against Tennessee with a backup in week 1 with Jamal Williams. They got smothered. Then they tried to do it with Joshua Kelly, who had a great game in week 1 alongside Eckler. Chargers got smothered. He had nothing on the ground. And then you're going to try and do it with Jerome Ford. I know he looked good against the Steelers, but they were dealing with injuries on the defense, and Kareem Hunt's back in Cleveland. I don't know. I really think this will have to be Deshaun Watson to win this game, and I won't buy into that until I see some glimmer of light or life. Sorry.
I can give one potential path that I put out there to a few people, and they were like, I could actually see that.
Tannehill interceptions?
No.
Okay.
The fact that Cleveland's line and defense as a whole has been incredible. Like, it's been engulfing the opposing lines. Good. Tennessee has a bottom 3 line. It can be one of those things where that Tennessee defense is on the field so much that in the second half, it doesn't matter how good your run defense is. You just tire out. We've seen Derrick Henry do this to so many teams in the past where you think he has an awful matchup. They're running so much and starting to sustain first downs that in the second half, he starts busting out some runs. And then when you couple that with the fact that Ford can catch passes out of the backfield, he has a couple different roads to potentially slice them. But if it does happen, I do think it would be because we do see many 3 and outs from Tennessee that hurts them. And that run defense can hold up to a certain extent, but you're also talking about an offensive line that is built to run block. They were gashing Pittsburgh in their own building in kind of a must-win game when they have a great front. So I do see a potential way. At least you're getting the plus 3.5, though. I really do like that. Anytime there's some sort of uncertain, I wonder which way this one's going to go. Both these teams have their warts. You kind of like being on the plus 3.5 on that.
You don't need to win. You need them to lose by a field goal, and you'll be happy. And look, I don't see any difference between Tannehill and Watson right now in the current form. I don't see a difference. So it comes down to me looking at 2 good defensive lines because we know Tennessee, fantastic run-stopping team. It comes down to who can do just a little bit more in a spot like this. And I think I'd probably late in the game rather have Derrick Henry. But your point, well taken. I wouldn't disagree with that at all.
All right, Dave, Mr. Laffey, I appreciate you coming on.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, I think you gave me nothing but good stuff last week. We've actually uncovered. This is the next season of. Oh my God, how did I just forget the HBO with McConaughey and Woody Harrelson?
True Detective.
Yes.
Which is the best single season of television. 1. If you're talking single season. There is not a better single season of a show that you could point towards.
I always tell people anytime you get something you get a mini series on something like HBO that I was going to put money into it, that's your highest % chance of just a mega hit.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what that was.
I'll give dude, I'm rewatching Band of Brothers right now and the Pacific, and those are HBO masterpieces, mini series as well. You can't go wrong. You're right.
Yeah. And we uncovered crime today. We may
We
have
did, we
uncovered
did.
some winners, and we literally just got to the bottom of a crime while dishing out a couple of winners. And
We
you know,
are
those
sleuths.
as the multitude of things you get here on Francis and Friends. Now we're going to bring on one of Francis's villains for the day. We're going to bring on the palest Dolphins fan known to man, Nick Lepri, the Notorious, another nickname that I don't know if I'm on the inside for, but let's bring on Nick. I do have to say, Nick, I shit on you for 42% of this episode.
Yeah, you did. And you also brought up the fact that you can't wear a shirt with your own name on it. I'm right now wearing a 9-inch Nick t-shirt. It says Nick on the back. So, yeah, I guess I am a scumbag.
Wait, before Dave goes, I have one thing to add. I just realized after your conversation, does it count if you're wearing a man younger than you on the front of a shirt? Because I'm wearing a Kelsey Fly shirt with his face.
That is, I would call all those things different. That's not actually like purchasing the full authentic uniform. I had a FredEx t-shirt because the guy helped me win the fantasy championship that year. If you guys remember when Fred Jackson at the age 31 came out of nowhere and killed it for the Buffalo Bills. But
We're talking about Freddie Mitchell for a second there.
Oh yeah, 4th
right.
and 26.
I'll see you boys. Have a good rest of the show.
See you, Dave.
Take it easy. All right, Nick, that's pretty impressive right there. And the one thing I do got to commend you on, and it's part of the reason that I didn't feel bad shitting on you at all, you embrace the wars with the people in the YouTube comments. And that is one hell of a place to go. That's straight up Jon Snow and Battle of the Bastards. You're holding up a single sword, and you got all these Bolton soldiers running towards you. So I got to commend you on that. Is that something you just take pride in? Are you part of like the Gen Z, this is just it? We're all snarky because I've talked to you before. You're a nice person when you're talking face to face, but online, it's like you get into like a WWE character.
Yeah, it's just about defending Tua's honor. You know, I'm a part of Tua Anon. I'm a big fan. I could have wore that shirt on today's show. I got one of those as well. And yeah, it's just all about defending the honor of these guys. And just when people in the comment section get a little unruly, I do get a bit angry. Obviously, I am more of a nicer guy, I would say. Definitely more of the heel turn on camera, like you're saying, WWE style. But I do get really mad when people start talking about like really dumb stuff in the comment section. Like, I had a guy come after me for telling him to start the Giants defense last week in fantasy. Like, oh, who would have known that Josh Dobbs was going to turn into Kyler Murray and the Giants were going to get bent over a table? But it is what it is, right? The Giants won the game still, but your defense scored you negative 30 points.
Look, there are people that have bad days when their own brother has a good day. There are people who will root against anything. I mean, they will root against the fall of, like that whole Game of Thrones thing. They'd rather be king of the ashes. They'd want everything to just burn. So I wouldn't take too much stake. As long as they're not ruining your day, then you're doing it right. I just have that kind of personality. It's not good. I'll just read something, get pissed off, and now this guy's really gonna get the wrath. And then once you realize how much time you're dedicating to that, now it's just went to none of you are getting read. And unfortunately, I think I hit that towards the NHL playoffs last year. I don't know if you're ever going to want to do this again because I really had some nice insults. I'll start with one directly to your face because for you younger people out there, this is what we used to do. We used to insult people to their face. Now it's just got to be like in Demolition Man to Nick's digital face. Part of the reason I'm surprised that you are a Dolphins fan is that you don't have enough skin pigment to actually go to the games in person. Like you couldn't survive. Last week, we learned about the home field advantage of the sun being on that side of the stadium. You would have to be on the whole other side of the stadium. So yeah. It's just a little bit surprising. But by the way, you're like a Northeast guy, right?
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey.
How'd you become a Dolphins fan?
Yeah, so when I was younger, my
dad you watch? Were you a Ray Finkel guy? So now it's like, all right, I'm all Dolphins.
No, it was just like when I was young, my dad's a Jets fan. The whole family's Jets fan. So I was like, you know what? Let me pick a team that is in direct competition to my dad. And I picked the team with the coolest colors because like when you're 6 years old, you don't really understand too much. And I was like, you know what? I like that aqua, that Dolphins color. So go Dolphins. And that's always how.
You think my mom didn't get me? And this is before your time, but you think my mom didn't get me that Carolina Panthers starter jacket that every single person who had cheap parents on the East Coast were given when they were when they joined the league. That was them, the San Jose Sharks, and it was all that teal. That was the cool thing in 1990, whatever, just having teal on starter jackets. So I actually want to ask you, and it's not just because it's you. It's something that I definitely usually at the beginning of the week, I call them the rats, the ones that they're trying to get you to take. And it's not just because it's your team. If I asked you before the lines came out, hey, what do you think the spread is on Miami versus the Broncos? What would you have said after watching the Broncos start 0-2 and Miami going 2-0 and coming home for their home opener?
Yeah, well, if without the Waddle injury, I probably would have said -7, -7.5. But knowing that Waddle's hurt, it would probably be closer to 6.
Okay, typically like wide receivers and stuff, they won't move lines more than like, half a point, maybe Tyreek or something like that. And do you see this as a game, or are you one of those guys that, like, you have a jaded opinion either way? Like, you can't bet on it because it's like you don't see it clearly because it's your own team.
Oh, I bet every single Dolphins game. I bet the Dolphins money line and then on the spread. But again, it is definitely more of a jaded opinion, right? I do have very high opinions of the Dolphins. I have high opinions. Like, people say, oh, the Dolphins defense sucks. And I'm like, you know what? Did you not pay attention to the games, all these little adjustments they're making? In reality, they're still not the greatest. But I do think up against Denver and Russell Wilson, who's 0-2, like, they're going to be 0-3 at the end of the week.
Yeah, I think that the right side to take on this, and like, this is one where it wouldn't just be you, it would be everybody, but it just seems like too good to be true. They're trying, like, why is that not 7.5? They want you to push all your chips in on Miami. And if Waddle doesn't play and the defense plays like it played most of last season and they just are able to limit Tyreek, I mean, let's see how Tua does without Waddle for the whole game. I mean, I think they should win, but the Broncos are essentially playing for their season, and I don't really see I don't know if you'll see the Miami match that level of desperation. And I already guaranteed everybody watching this show that not only am I betting on them with the points, I'm betting on Broncos money line just to screw you, because my theory is that your penalty for showing up late is they're going to lose. So I'm going to have some coming in on the Broncos.
Yeah, and it also might reek of a trap game because we do play the Bills next week, a division rivalry game. And, sometimes teams get caught in that, right? They're just thinking 1 week ahead, and then we get smacked by Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson, somehow.
Okay, so
Mr. Unlimited.
That's enough about your squad. How about if you can kind of give us something that maybe you could see a little more clearly because you don't have your emotional investment tied to it? Is there anything on the board? It could be props or spreads, even money lines, anything that really jumps out at you.
Yeah, I got a couple. So Seattle -5.5 versus Carolina. Bryce Young's not going to be playing, so it's going to be the Ginger Ninja Andy Dalton under center. And I just really don't think the Carolina Panthers stand much of a chance with Andy Dalton under center. I know the Seahawks in week 1 against the Rams, that was one of those big, not really a big game feel. Obviously, it's week 1, but it's like, all right, Seattle's looking strong. The Rams don't have Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford's back, and his neck is all messed up. So this is going to be an easy ride for Seattle. Seattle gets stomped in that game. They bounce back in week 2. Carolina just doesn't have enough weapons. They just have guys like Adam Thielen, who have been in the NFL for 2 decades, and it's just not enough. Miles Sanders isn't good enough. So I really think Seattle steamrolls here against Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if they won by 14 or more.
Yeah, it would have to take something would have to happen, because how many times do we need to see Andy Dalton? I mean, he's been put on good teams. He's played on these good Dallas teams and wasn't even able to win when we saw Cooper Rush win with that same team. So Dalton really is just kind of a loser. So I actually kind of like that pick. Anything else? Any props?
Yeah, so in the Vikings versus Chargers game, I feel like that's going to be the highest scoring game. I mean, that's not really that hot of a take, right? They probably have one of the highest Vegas totals on the week. I like Kirk Cousins over 289.5 yards. and then Jordan Addison over 50.5 yards in that game. Jordan Addison has just been getting these deep bomb targets. Wouldn't shock me if he found the end zone again. He scored in both of the first games. It seems like when Kirk Cousins isn't looking at Jefferson, he can rely heavily on Addison, since KJ Osborne has bricks for hands, which we saw up against the Eagles in primetime last week. So Kirk Cousins has been balling. He broke the allegations of Kirk Cousins sucks on primetime, even though they still lost. The real guy who sucks on primetime is Daniel Jones, who is 1-11 on primetime.
Yeah, true garbage. I will say this. I don't know if it's just being contrarian. Be careful, all you DFS players, all you bettors on all taking the overs. You're looking at two defenses, the Chargers, who have historically been crushed by the run, even if you don't have great running backs, just on the other, even though they have two slow running backs. And then you saw what happened to the Vikings with the Eagles. So asking for 300 yards for either of these quarterbacks in a game where, look, there's a chance it doesn't happen, but we see how freaking conservative the Chargers coach is and how he refuses to just let Herbert loose sometimes. And then, as you saw in week one, like the majority of that game until it started, they had to play catch up a little bit. The first half, Cousins really wasn't slinging it all over the field. Just be weary of the potential run fest because of the lack of run defense in both of those teams, which may sneakily keep that under. So just something to put in the back of your mind. Sorry to be the devil's advocate, sorry to be Pacino to your Keanu Reeves, but it's just something that's been in my head. I always try to think, how can I get screwed in DFS? If I build a cousin stack, how can I get screwed? And that immediately popped into my head. Not to mention also, Madison is running the third most routes for wide receivers, but when they throw to him, it is typically deep. So those are two things that they could definitely pop. If that game goes the high scoring way like projected, definitely that seems like pretty good. But I'd like to thank you for coming on, Nick, and especially if you ever come on again after you hear how I chewed you out. But I am a fan of what you do. You're doing a great job on YouTube. I understand how hard it is to garner attention and a YouTube following. You've been doing great with it. And if you want to plug anything, feel free.
Yeah. On YouTube now, for some reason, there's so it's just @Notorious Fantasy. I don't know when they changed that. It used to just be like a link, but now it's just @Notorious Fantasy on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitter, get me all fired up during the Dolphins games, @Notorious FNTSY. And if you want to take or talk negatively about Tua, we can do it in the DMs. And I'll slaughter you in there. So we'll have a great time. I appreciate all of you guys for watching today's video. I did enjoy listening to Andy kind of shit on me. It was kind of funny, I don't take any of that stuff to heart. I know there's a lot of people in my generation who are a little softer, but on the playground, people slinging mud at each other. It is what it is. So thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. And shout out to Mike as well, Bottom Glass.
With Dave, we talked about how we're scumbag people from the Northeast. We just, guilty before proven innocent, but there is a flip side. We get to do things like this, and he's fine with it. I'm fine with it. Go ahead, Nick. If you need to insult me, I know you're just being nice because you feel bad. Go ahead. Do you want to say I look like some Sopranos extra? Go ahead.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
Nick,
out of
Nick,
curiosity,
I'm also a scumbag. Sorry, Andy. I just want to say thanks for
go
coming on, Nick. And I knew that you would handle the shit talking well, being a Jersey boy.
Out of curiosity, have you ever heard of Charles in Charge?
No.
Okay. I figured as much. It's not like it. Have you heard of Growing Pains?
Yeah.
So you have Growing Pains made the cut, huh? All right. Just I need to know what to prepare when I'm going to the executives at Peacock. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back for week 3. Please share this with whoever. We're on a upward trajectory, and that is up to you guys. So we appreciate the support that you have been giving us. We will be back again week 4 with a couple of new guests for you. Until then, good luck. I got my video coming out tomorrow for, Andy's best NFL Sunday picks. I have a feeling, I know you people, you're like cockroaches. You flee to the hot bets. As soon as you hear someone's heating up, now everyone flocks to the videos. You're like that old woman at a casino where they hover around slot machines. If they see somebody losing for an hour, then they go, oh, now I'm going to play on there. You want to cash in on the hot better, which I kind of am at the moment. So I guess I will see you guys tomorrow. Like, comment, subscribe. The big 3, like those Boston Celtics had. I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.